There isn't a movie that exists without faults, except your parents' sex tape. Shawshank Redemption comes close, as does Back to the Future, as does White Chicks, but no matter how good a film is, human error always creeps in, with some missing out on perfection because of a single nagging issue. Stories are really tricky. The human brain craves neatness, but life never works out like that, so counterproductively we fixate on tiny faults, because we're dicks. All of us. I'm a dick, you're a dick, Adam Sandler's a dick, the person sitting next to you, look at them, gosh, aren't they a dick? Now, where was I? Ah, yes, the pedantry. I'm Adam from Whatculture.com, and here are 10 perfect movies with one glaring flaw. Number 10, Blofeld doesn't recognise his worst enemy on Her Majesty's Secret Service. The first post-Connery Bond film is something of an anomaly for fans. It's the only film starring Australian model George Lazenby. It also features Bond wearing a kilt and getting married. What the f***? The reaction to On Her Majesty's Secret Service was mixed at the time, but in hindsight, it's actually one of the better, more meaningful Bond films in the entire series, with just one big problem. Blofeld doesn't recognise Bond despite having met him in You Only Live Twice, where he blew up his secret volcano base. The reason for this is that in the original version of the script, Bond had undergone facial reconstruction surgery to turn him from Sean to George, but that was cut from the script, meaning that Bond's only disguise was meeting Blofeld in a kilt, and somehow the criminal genius cannot place the face of the man who again blew up his evil crime volcano. Number 9, human batteries are completely inefficient. The Matrix. Okay, there are actually two giant plot holes in The Matrix. The first one, if it takes a human operator to take people in and out of the Matrix, how did Cypher have an evil meeting in the Matrix without an accomplice? But everyone knows that one, and that tiny moment of plot inconvenience pales when you realize the entire concept of the Matrix doesn't make sense. See, most of the energy humans take in goes into keeping us alive, with a little extra waste expelled as heat. This should make it clear that even in a totally vegetative state, a human wouldn't be a viable energy source. In fact, science alert, using the second law of thermodynamics, at best the machines could only ever get out the same amount of energy from their humans' farms as they put in, at best. At best. They'd have been better served wiping humans out and dealing with a scorched sky. Number 8, the Joker is a man with a plan, The Dark Knight. He's a man with a plan. In the Dark... No, don't put that in, it's a wrestling reference that no one will get. In The Dark Knight, the Joker confronts a scarred Harvey Dent and asks, "Do I look like a guy with a plan?" That line is treated as a succinct summary of the Clown Prince of Crime's character, but he is. He's got loads of plans. He had loads of plans. His master big plan was to turn Harvey Dent into his wild card, and that meant he planned to get locked up in the MCU with his man bomb. He planned to give the location of the kidnapped Dent and Rachel Dawes at the exact right time, and most intricately having Batman manage to get to Harvey Dent before he's blown sky high, but for the police to miss saving Rachel. Sure, his plans are chaotic, but the logistics of it all show Joker being far from a dog chasing cars. He's actually a micromanager of the most pedantic kind. Number 7, Buzz goes still when Andy's about. Toy Story. The first film in Pixar's signature trilogy sees Buzz Lightyear destroy the status quo amongst 6-year-old Andy's toys. Displacing the gang's de facto leader Woody as their owner's favourite one, the confrontation is amped up by Buzz being totally unaware that he's a child's plaything. It's such a strong idea that the series went back to it in some form in both sequels. However, there's just one problem. If Buzz doesn't believe he's a toy, why does he go still when Andy's around? We know toys are capable of moving in front of humans. Woody torments Sid later on in the movie. So what's to stop the deluded space ranger from trying to make contact with the single biggest alien he can find, the one known as Andy? Number 6, Obi-Wan's lies. Star Wars. We're not in any way endorsing any more changes to the Star Wars trilogy, please no. But if Lucas was actually out to improve the movies, there's bigger things he could have edited, like the massive logic cluster fodder of everything Obi-Wan says in A New Hope. When he first doles out the story of Luke's father, it has Anakin betrayed and murdered by Darth Vader. Subsequent films introduce the concept of Darth Vader actually being Anakin, his dad, which makes the whole scene nonsensical. In later films, Obi-Wan's like, "Look, I was being metaphorical, Luke." To which Luke should have said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that when you said my dad was killed by another separate person, it was a whimsical play on words, you emotionally manipulative asshole." Number 5, the explanation scene, Psycho. This one's not really a plot hole, it's just a massive shift in tone and style that almost ruins one of the best thrillers ever made. Naturally, when it came out, Psycho had the censors a little bit on edge. At the time, there were strong restrictions on what films could show, with scenes like the shower murder and gasp flushing a toilet being particularly controversial. So to appease the censors, in the final explanation scene in a room full of police, a psychiatrist very systematically breaks down Norman's psychological state in detail for what feels like an hour. Considering how cold and clinical it is compared to the rest of the film's beautifully constructed sense of atmosphere, the scene really sticks out. Apparently, it was included in the film on the insistence of the studio, who were worried about the sexual connotations of a man dressing up in women's clothing, and the audience being in any doubt that Norman Bates is, a psycho. Number 4, the microwave Batman Begins. The Christopher Nolan Batman movies go like this: excellent, excellent, and you'll do. With the gritty psychological Batman saga being kicked off in grand fashion by Batman Begins, as far as origin stories for Batman, Batman Begins is funny, moving, and near faultless. The only really glaring fault is that when it comes down to Batman fighting the villain, the big bad's plan is sort of bollocks. Ra's al Ghul brings a giant Samsung microwave to town to evaporate all of Gotham's water, which has been pumped full of a fear toxin for weeks, so that in the gas everyone goes cuckoo mental. But there are only two problems. If it's capable of evaporating water through solid concrete, why does it not evaporate 70% of all humans around it? And also, if no one else went crazy in the weeks leading up to the outbreak, does this mean no one had cooked pasta or boiled a kettle or went to a sauna in the entirety of Gotham? Number 3, the guards definitely would have spotted Andy's shoes, the Shawshank Redemption. Look, you try wearing trainers to your sister's wedding and see if no one notices your shoes. Shawshank is one of the greatest films ever made, but there's one little leap of logic at the end that I personally could never quite get over. No, not how did Andy attach the poster to the wall after he left. It's seriously, why did no one notice Andy's shoes? During his time locked up, Andy helps the prison's warden launder vast sums of money, and with his escape plan, he blows the case wide open, taking the money for himself, and in a symbolic middle finger, he also takes the warden's shoes. To do so, however, is the biggest risk of the whole escape, with Andy having to actually wear the freshly polished beauties back to his cell right past the guards. The film explains the out-of-character footwear in a throwaway line, how often do you really look at a man's shoes? But look, no, after all, they are gleamingly polished. If a guard saw Andy approaching down the corridor, there's no question that his shiny new Oxford would raise eyebrows. Number 2, you can't kill in the future unless you can. Looper. Looper's time travel is a bit silly, but at least it follows its own set rules. Once the concept's introduced, it works in the same manner the whole way through the film, but not all of Looper's ideas are as consistent. The film is set primarily in the not-so-distant future, where Joseph Gordon-Levitt kills people sent back in time because CSI is really, really great in the future, and it's impossible to kill someone and get away with it. Except for the time where the hired goons come to take Bruce Willis back in time and they accidentally kill his wife. Forensics scratching their head on that one, apparently. The villains cover it up by burning his house down, and so if that's all it takes to get away with murder, why bother with a complex time travel plot spanning 30 years? And number 1, the window of opportunity, Back to the Future. I mean, why pick holes in Back to the Future? Why try to find fault in possibly the most joyous and lovely film ever created? Well, money, basically. My money. You can't have it. There's one plot hole in Back to the Future that is a bloody annoyance once you uncover it. The whole film's climax, right, is Marty driving at precisely the exact time so the DeLorean passes under the wire at the exact time that lightning strikes. It relies on perfect timing, which is where so much of the awesome tension of the third act comes from. Thing is, there's no second hand on the town clock, and all Doc and Marty know is that at some point during the 4th minute past 10, lightning strikes the clock tower. Thing is, in this situation, a whole 60 seconds is a giant window of opportunity, so in fact there'd be no possible way for Marty to know when to start driving the DeLorean down Main Street. I feel like an asshole for saying this. I really do. And that's our list. Did we miss any out? Tell us about it in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter here. I'm Adam from Whatculture.com, and I'll see you soon.